Okay, 2D3. Would you like to introduce that to us first?
Commissioners, what we have here is a contract to represent us in the US 192 administrative hearing that's going to be upcoming for the environmental resource permit. The attorney is from Tallahassee. He's been with us throughout this journey since 2006 in order to be able to obtain these and other permits.
Okay. Charles Lee, please. Name and address, please. How are you doing?
Very good, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, I am Charles Lee, Director of Advocacy of Audubon, Florida. And I'm here today not to say anything negative about the attorney at issue here, Mr. David D. I've known him for many years, and he's an excellent attorney, and if you need an attorney, would be a good choice. I'm here to comment on the nature of this item and to suggest that the potential for litigation is something that we would hope the county would strive to avoid. We are very concerned, as are other landowners, that the 1991 idea of placing a landfill in the wetland floodplain of the St. Johns River is an idea which in today's context is not appropriate. The permit that you are discussing needing a lawyer for is merely one permit that you will have to get. As you probably know, the Department of Environmental Protection, which is the agency administering that particular permit, is noted in recent years for some retrenchment and is not denying a lot of permits or heavily modifying a lot of permits. The story is a little different when you get to the federal level and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And the permit for the 192 landfill is something that has been seen by the Corps of Engineers before. Approximately 2012, the county staff filed an application for this permit, and it was put in abeyance after a long list of comments from federal agencies, including questions from the Corps of Engineers itself as to whether the permit was a water-dependent use that would be entitled to be approved by the Corps of Engineers on that site. Based on our experience dealing with these kind of permits, we think that even if you're successful in getting your permit from the Department of Environmental Protection, you've got a long, steep road ahead of you with regard to the Army Corps of Engineers permit. We're concerned about this permit for a number of reasons. It is in the St. Johns floodplain and wetlands. There are threatened species, the crested caracara, which have nest on and around the site. And recently, the Central Florida Water Initiative, which I believe you're familiar with, has redirected thinking about where water is going to come from for the millions of residents of Central Florida, and is looking increasingly at the St. Johns River as a potable water source for the people of this region. In that context, we think placing a landfill into the river wetlands and floodplain is an idea which perhaps was something you could have entertained 25 years ago when it was first proposed, but an idea that is probably something you might want to seek alternatives to now before you engage in extensive litigation trying to defend that old idea. I am told that the capacity of the construction debris landfill that you currently have in use will last until at least 2023. I'm further told that your Class 1 landfill, the garbage landfill, has 20 to 30 years of additional life expectancy. We believe that there is significant time available to you to explore alternatives that would not involve a landfill in the floodplain and wetlands in the St. Johns River. And on behalf of Audubon, Florida, we would urge you to engage meaningfully as a commission at the county commission level in examining those issues before you send the county down a path of potentially expensive litigation. We think constructive solutions are available. We would like, as an organization, to help you reach those constructive solutions, but we also think that it would not be a good expenditure of your time and money to launch at this point in time into litigation on that site. You could hold that site in abeyance. You could explore these other alternatives. You could save quite a bit of money for the county and its taxpayers if you would engage first in an examination of modern-day alternatives. And so we would ask you to do that, regardless of what your determination is today on this particular agenda item with regard to the selection of that attorney. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to discussing this with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure of the board.
Well, I think he stole over half of my thunder, but I still have a couple more things. In addition to protecting our water supply source, which is extremely valuable, and we're spending millions of dollars cleaning up the lagoon, rather than have to spend additional millions of dollars protecting the St. Johns River from being infiltrated with dirty sewage or bad water, I think that that's not a good choice on our behalf. Also, we recently created the West Melbourne CRA. The West Melbourne CRA was created so that when people come off of I-95 and enter Brevard County from just off of I-95, they would see a nice gateway. So to take away from our gateway coming in, if you understand 192 takes you from Disney World into Brevard County. I don't really want my gateway to be, and here's our landfill. Welcome to Brevard County. I think that there's another way that you might want to enter Brevard County other than saying, here's our landfill. Thank you, everybody, for coming from Disney World into Brevard County. Here's our land. I think there's a better choice for that. And I think in 72 miles, we probably have some other piece of property other than our gateway to Brevard County to be a landfill. So I'm really against potentially damaging the wetlands of that area, using our gateway for that, and we're lawyering up. I don't think that that's the best use of our financial resources right now, to lawyer up, to fight off potential litigations or arguments against creating the landfill in this site, only to spend millions of dollars now just to be shut down a few years down the road by the Army Corps of Engineers. So why not just stop this battle now? That's my position.
Yuri, would you like to respond?
Yes, ma'am. This journey started a long time ago. It started in the 80s through the first alternative site study that we did. It was also, there was another site selected at that time that rules changed. The first site was too close to what they call Class 3 waters, which is waters that are used for drinking. So that site was abandoned. The next site that came up, there was another alternative study done, second one, in the 90s, concluded that this site was the best one in the county. We started the permitting process back in 91 and 93. Well, there's a whole history. Bottom line is, at the mid-90s, the board at that time decided not to continue it, to pursue other alternatives, which we really did, which was expanding on site. Those alternatives were carried forward, and come the hurricane, we lost several years' worth of capacity. Back to 2006, we did a series of workshops with the board back then. We presented different alternatives. We decided again to pursue the US 192 site. Another study was conducted at that time, an alternative study. Not only that, but there was also during the 90s, there was an RFP put for alternative methods of pretty much getting the private people involved to see if they could get a solution for us. That did not result in anything. Again, back in 2012, we came to the board and asked permission to look at different alternatives. We put out an RFP out there. We looked at all the technology existing out there, and we didn't find anything that came close to our economic values. And some of those alternatives, regardless of which one we had picked, still required a landfill for the stuff that was left over. So fast forward to present time, we put in for the Army Corps of Engineers. We put that on hold until we got some DEP, the permit from DEP for the ERP. The ERP permit, there was a notice of intent to issue put out. We're working on the language, and another ad will be coming out pretty soon regarding that issue. The Army Corps is waiting for the DEP. They will not issue a permit without some information from DEP, but they have already looked at the project. Whether it will get the permit or not, I can't guarantee that. There is no guarantees in this business. But as far as other sites, we have looked and looked and looked, and we have not found. In fact, there was conversations with Deseret in the mid-90s about exchanging this property for another property that they thought was better. We looked at that and came to find out that the property had several problems, along with more wetlands to it, and it crossed several bridges that the bridges would have had to be upgraded because they did not hold sufficient capacity for 80,000-pound trucks. We have our conceptual idea of this site involves over 800 acres of conservation. There is a portion of this site that is in the Hudson-Deer floodplain. There are no structures that are going to be put in that area. Pretty much stormwater or maybe borrow pits and stormwater ponds, but no active structures. So the landfill is not going to be in the floodplain. The future Class 1 landfill is not going to be in the floodplain. Part of the requirements of this is that we take care of and there is one nest of Terracara, and there are several requirements for taking care of that. As far as the birds are concerned, we are one of the sites that the Bird Festival comes in, and every year they come to our site to look at birds. It's just a phase of the business. Certain garbage, and this is not the one that we're contemplating right now, attracts birds. It is far enough from the airport that won't be an issue. Again, one of the requirements is when we bring in this water from outside of the site, that the water going outside of flowing through the site and going outside of the site pretty much is as clean or cleaner than what it came in.
Right, but one of my points was that we are so far ahead of schedule on our recycling that we are going to fill up our existing landfill sites in a much slower time, a much longer time than we were originally scheduled, because Brevard County is probably one of the top counties in the state for recycling. And then the other thing is that when we did our research, it would appear we have more landfill sites per capita than virtually any other county in the state of Florida. So I think, again, I appreciate that we're trying to be proactive and look toward the future, but I think we're looking too far to the future. And what seemed like a good idea in the 80s, we didn't face the water shortage crisis that we've been facing nowadays with water restrictions. And so the state and the federal government is going to be looking to more water resources in the future than they have in the past. So it's just going to be an uphill battle. I think there's other places for us to choose to fight rather than saying one of the most important things for Brevard County is to have our own landfill site. I thought that the number one thing we're supposed to do was for the lagoon. Well, then we switched that, and then we said the number one thing we have to do is roads. Now, apparently, one of the biggest things we have to do is find our own landfill site. I don't think that that's what we want to be known for.
Commissioner Anderson.
You guys know my opposition to this, and I just want to point out a couple things that Commissioner Barfield and Commissioner Smith may not be aware of. There is, and it's been offered up, a privately owned landfill very close to this site in Osceola County that's willing to take our waste, and they have many, many years of capacity. And I don't know why we always just refuse to explore that option. I know I've talked to one of the operators of that landfill several times. In fact, he probably still is, a Osceola County Commissioner. And it's not that much further of a drive. Beyond that, the owners are willing to buy this back. So we don't lose anything. We actually get money back, avoid the cost of the legal battles that are ahead. And I can tell you, Audubon's here. I know Sierra is going to be on board, and there's probably several other organizations who have pretty deep pockets and can drag this thing out a real long time. And I just want to reiterate what Commissioner Fattini said, that it's just not a good location to come into Brevard County and see a landfill, and I've said that for 7 years now. So, and I still think we have to do more of an extensive search on the new technology out there. I read articles all the time about communities that are doing some pretty innovative stuff with waste, and the search that Yuri is speaking about was not that extensive. It was kind of just a look by the former county manager, Howard Tipton. So I think we need to revisit that. So I'll be voting against this item.
You know, in a previous life, I worked for a corporation that did a lot of the preliminary analysis for waste-to-energy plants. And the technology has come a very, very long way now. And what I really would like to do is to get someone, maybe from the Palm Beach one of the designers, operators come up at some point. We have I hate to use this word again, but a workshop, but where we can get the input. I'd like to know exactly where the technology is now. And there's all kinds of ways to finance, if you want to use that term, waste to energy, because it is really waste to energy. It's generating energy which you can sell back, and that can pay for it. It used to be where it was not that efficient back in the 80s and 90s when they were first exploring it. It wasn't very efficient. Now it's come a long ways. And so I would basically like to, I'd recommend we at least table this, and I would like to make sure that I'm comfortable that this is the last option. You know, things have changed in the technology world and a lot of other things. And quite frankly, I wasn't here when all this happened, and I want to be much more comfortable with it.
A couple things. Desiree Ranch came to see me, and we had some conversation. I started thinking about whether or not, where do you find 3,000 acres that somebody isn't going to have concern with it? One, nobody wants it next to them. Two, I guarantee you that Audubon could be here and say there's some environmental concerns on 3,000 acres anywhere in this county, if you can find 3,000 acres. The other thing I think we ought to be cautious of is, I was in the Carolinas over the weekend, and in the Greenville station, which I thought recycling was here to stay. They are now no longer take glass for recycling. I thought it was kind of weird. You know, all of a sudden, I thought we were all on this huge, big recycling thing in the Greenville now, because there's so much of it, and there's not a demand and a market to sell it, that they now no longer take recycling in their thing. So as we might think recycling was going to slow down the need for landfill, and glass was one of those products that were going to come out of it, it might not be here in the future. You know, so I don't know. I mean, I'm comfortable workshopping if you want to. I'm not, but I can tell you there's probably not 3,000 acres anywhere that somebody's not going to say he's got some environmental concerns on it.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on this issue. I've also had a couple of tours from the Deseret Ranch, and it's pristine area, it's a beautiful area. And as a nature lover and a guy that spends a lot of time outside, that's important to me. And I think that we need to protect our nature and our heritage and our lands that we hold so dear. But we also have a responsibility to the county and the people that live here, and one of those is the nasty subject of waste. And it's the subject that nobody really wants to talk about, but it doesn't go away. And I like the fact that we have been proactive on this whole deal. We're looking out, and we have responsible people like Yuri that's looking out for us 10, 20, 30 years down the road. This is a process, and I would not be adverse to us going forward and doing some kind of a workshop if you want, but I am not adverse either for us to set aside this land and keep the land and get the necessary permits if we can and protect ourselves and our county going forward 20, 30 years in the future. And as has already been stated here, with the technologies as they progress, maybe 20 years from now, this is a non-issue. Maybe we don't even need a landfill. But the good part is that we are part of a government, and we have somebody in leadership position in Uri that is looking out for us in case we do need it. And, boy, you don't want to be in a place, whether you're in private enterprise or you're in government, where you have to have something that you don't have. That puts you in a precarious position, and then you're really between the rock and the hard place. So I like the idea of going forward and hedging our bets, protect ourselves for the future, and look at our responsibilities going forward. What are our responsibilities, and what are the alternatives that we have? If we could come up with an alternative to this, I'd be in favor of it, but I don't know that we have one. So, if you guys want to do a workshop and look at it further, I have no objection to that.
Okay. My concern is also with the long permitting process. I don't really want to kill this because we would be in that situation.
Yes, exactly.
But I would also like to look at every other alternative and see where we can go.
Right, and if we get the permits, that doesn't mean that we're going to start using it tomorrow and
we won't
quote
get
unquote corrupting the land. We're hedging our bets for the future. So that if we do need it,
will take a long time.
Right, and if we do need it, we've got it. And if the Corps of Engineers gets to the point where they say we can't use it, well, then we've had that decision made for us.
Mr. Wood.
Commissioners, if you're going to workshop it, can I ask that we do that in conjunction with the budget workshop that you already have scheduled for March 31st? I think that gives us enough time to be prepared.
Okay. Is that okay with everyone?
That's good with me.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So,
Make a motion to table this item till March 31st.
Second.
Could I have a motion to table by Commissioner Anderson? Second by Commissioner Smith. Sorry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, it passes 5-0. Okay. We'll move on to public comments. Excuse me, public comments. And we'll make sure it's clarified that what we say on the back page of this, and I'll read it again, any speaker not heard during the first 30-minute segment will be heard during a second public comment segment held at the conclusion of business specified on the regular commission agenda. So if you speak in the first opportunity, the first 30 minutes, you can't speak in the second 30 minutes. If you don't speak the first 30 minutes, you can speak in the second 30 minutes. This does not apply to agenda items, just to be clear. Okay, first one's Charles Tovey. Mr. Tovey, I'd like to thank you for the Valentine's card, too. Thank you for sending it.
Thank you very much for the Valentine
Yeah, that
card.
was very nice of you.
Was to Brevard County, and I appreciate the recognition. I don't want the time clock to go, and you guys got to get off of here by lunch, so I have to watch my time. And my name's Charles Tovey, 2555 Roberts Road, Melbourne. A few things, and I only got 3 minutes, but I didn't want to be a liar about giving away $1 million. I want to give each of And excuse me for how I approach. I only have enough time to do things and hadn't had enough time to fill out my agenda cards yet. And I went to the office on Friday to pick up a copy of the agenda. I got a copy of the schedule for the rest of the year, but not a copy of the agenda. So I hadn't had time, and I don't have access to public libraries and all the other stuff that people have. I've been on the internet maybe 12 times. I do have photographs and pictures that I want to provide for everybody, and we were the first in Brevard. My family started this. I have plans for the environment, for the buildings. We can all work together, and they can complement each other instead of trying to eradicate people's rights to live. I'm afraid to be up here. I have to leave everything. Yeah, I'm running out of time. There's a copy of my family things. There's a copy of my business things. There's a copy of the rivers being clogged up. And I gave you, I'll provide more copies. I'm running out of time. I've already presented this item before, and it's about being in Palm Shores. And one of those pictures I gave you was about the clogged rivers that they came to the lagoon. And I had the flag covering my doghouse I live in because I'm not allowed in my house. I'm not allowed to fix it. And you $25,000 fines against my boat that you took, $25,000 against my house. I can't do anything. For how long now? Since, this is what I have from, I found it. Public safety hazard, flying down the highway, down US 1. This is mine now. They have no right to trespass on my property. And when they say they don't do it, they follow me on their lawnmowers. The vice mayor, I forget his name, Falcone, that's him, comes out with the lawnmower guy telling threat. I'm riding my bike trying to see my mom. And my mom would be up here because she's my partner and she has something to say, and she doesn't want to come up here because of what she has to say. And they're all my partners, my family and my friends. They're all working together for good to everybody. Still got 14 seconds. I'm running out of time. I forgot. Oh, yeah, glass. Recycling glass. I have it. We can put it in the asphalt for the roads and save money. It's included in that. And the dump areas, we can beautify them and make them beautiful and help.
Thank you. Okay, that's the last public comment I have, so we'll move to 4A.
Any cards?
No cards.
Make a motion for approval. Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Fisher, second by Commissioner Anderson. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes